Okay, thank you for your attendance today. Earlier today, we held our committee meetings. First item on the agenda is invocations, and we'll call on Chaplain Gary Ledger.
Let us pray. All-knowing God, one who knows everything, one who knows everything about what's going to go on and what's going to happen. Father, we pray that you give these young men and young ladies wisdom, because they are counsel fathers. Give them that wisdom in how to deal with difficulty and problems. Help them. Let them get their guidance from above. And may your guidance be upon them. May the Holy Spirit direct them. And may there be a concert of harmony that will permeate this room and these young men and young ladies today. That it will come, everything comes from above. And Father God, as leaders, it all filters down. And we pray for this county, that this county will be the safest county in South Carolina, that this county will be the safest in the whole America. Give them, give us, and help us. Be gracious unto us, and may your grace abound. For us in the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. Next we have the pledge of allegiance. Robert, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roger. And now, please indulge council just a moment. Today is Catherine's birthday, so Mr. Britt, do you know they'll want to start us off?
I got kicked out of the church choir in the 5th grade.
We knew that. We have all these microphones.
But I'll take it on. Oh, Hill, you can sing, so.
Well, let's get it on.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Catherine. Happy birthday to you.
Trust me, I have talked to her over the last few days, and she hasn't had a lot of happiness in her life. So hopefully we can make her happy before the evening is over. Next we have some presentations. Item A, the resolution expressing recognition and appreciation for the pride and honor bestowed upon Spartanburg County by the achievements of Chesney High School Eagles baseball team as the 2013 2A state champions. Coach is here with Tink to receive, and Ms. Goldhill Mitt to present.
Coach, if you'll bring your players and you have some family, bring them all down here, because most of the players are playing Legion ball.
Yes.
Anybody out there with a family with this team, come on down here. There's some players playing Legion ball. There's probably some on vacation. Unfortunately, when we do resolutions for baseball and softball teams, if we're waiting any longer, you're going to have all your seniors going to college and what have you. So we appreciate y'all coming. We appreciate what you've done. Great job. A resolution expressing recognition and appreciation for the pride and honor bestowed upon Spartanburg County by the achievements of the Chesney High School Eagles baseball team as the 2013 state 2A champions. Whereas pride and honor have been bestowed upon Spartanburg County by the accomplishments of the Chesney High School Eagles baseball team as the 2013 state 2A baseball champions. Chesney High School Eagles baseball team won its 5th state title on the 25th anniversary of their 1988 championship, coincidentally winning on the same field. This being the 5th state championship for the Eagles, having won in 1983, 1984, 1988, 2010, and 2013. Chesney High School Eagles baseball team concluded its season with a record of 26-6. This is the first state championship title for head coach Scott Weiss, and I told him the tradition continues. Coach Jones led them to 4. I know Scott's going to lead them to many more. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Spartanburg County Council does hereby recognize the Chesney High School Eagles baseball team for their achievements in winning the 2013 State 2A Baseball Championship. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to the Chesney High School Eagles baseball team in recognition thereof, and be made a part of the permanent minutes in the Spartanburg County Council, adopted this 17th day of June 2013, and this is signed by Jeffrey A. Horton, Chairman of Spartanburg County Council, and is attested by our administrators, signed also Catherine L. Hubbard. Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt.
You have a motion. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, it passes. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. Thank you very much for having us. I mean, this has been a very special year. We had 15 great young men, and they represent Spartanburg County and Chesney High School very well. So thank you again.
Thank you. Any of y'all want to speak?
Or sing.
Thank you, Mr. Mance. Next, we have a presentation to the Spartanburg Economic Futures Group for a national recognition for economic development agencies. Carter Smith, Brian Nash, David Cordo, Chair, to receive, and Mr. David Britt to present. Mr. Britt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Morning, men. This council may not agree on everything. We'll debate and discuss a lot of things, but there is one thing I think we universally agree on, and it's economic development for Spartanburg County. And we've worked hard, for the last 22 years. Carter Smith and I, we started working in 1991 together on the BMW project. And since 1991, we've had about $13 billion invested in Spartanburg County. And when you look at the dollars that have been invested the 50 years prior, it's like $1.25 billion. 40,000 jobs created in these 20 years. And we've worked hard. The councils of the past, this council particularly, works very hard in our administration. It's been a welcome relief to have Catherine Hubbard on board as our administrator, because she works with Carter and myself very closely on recruiting companies here. And these three men, Brian Nash, David Cordo, and Carter, work with us. They're our economic development wing over at the chamber. And they're the face of Spartanburg County when we're meeting with companies and recruiting them here. And they do an outstanding job, as evidenced by Site Selection Magazine. This is a national magazine and national service that picks Spartanburg County as one of the top 10 in the United States for recruiting and bringing in companies to this area. So it's a great honor. And on behalf of Spartanburg County Council, I present it to Carter Smith,
Thank you, David.
Vice President of Economic Development.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we tremendously appreciate Council's commitment to private business, and particularly in recruiting and working with existing companies to expand. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, David. Next, we have item 3, employee recognition, Catherine Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council. I'd like to recognize Gary Squan and Kathy Woolman. You guys here tonight? There's a lot of folks that are standing out in the hallway. Did we get you guys inside? There you go. I wanted to tell you a little bit about a very interesting voicemail that I got from Kathleen Bean Blossom. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting Miss Bean Blossom, but our 2 employees have. And they made such a big impression on Miss Bean Blossom and her family. They were building a home here in Spartanburg County. They're not originally from Spartanburg County. And the message that she left told me that the experience she had with Gary and Kathy made her look forward to being a Spartanburg County citizen. And while we hope that for every citizen in Spartanburg County, our newest citizen thinks the world of these 2 individuals who represented us very well. I'd like to personally thank you and ask council to join me in thanking you for being such great ambassadors for Spartanburg County. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Robert. Next, we go to item 4. Open item A to consider ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an infrastructure credit agreement dated July 15, 2013 by and among Spartanburg County and American Credit Acceptance LLC, Dale Hill, East Main redevelopment. I did have 2 people sign up under the public hearing comment period to speak on behalf of this public hearing. It is a Sherry Meadows, a Terry Meadows, of 200 Breckenridge Drive, Inman. So if they want to come forward now, this is the appropriate time. Sherry and Terry Meadows. I don't know if you signed up, guys. Okay, Sherry, how are you? Did you intend to speak on this public hearing? Is that what you signed, or was it something else?
About the cuts that I wanted.
Oh, no, that's something different. I'm sorry. Yeah, you had signed up under a public hearing for American Credit, so I will move you over to the other public comment period. Anyone else on item A? None seen, close A. Open B to consider an ordinance to develop a jointly owned and operated industrial business park in conjunction with Cherokee County. This is with also American Credit Acceptance. Anyone speak on behalf of this public hearing? None seen, close B. Open item C to consider an application for a special public event exclusion from the noise ordinance requested by Greer Dragway from 4 p.m. until midnight on Saturday, July 13, 2013, and Saturday, July 27, 2013 for a drag race at the 1792 Dragway Road, Greer. Anyone speak on behalf of this public hearing? None seen, close item C. That concludes public hearings. Earlier today, we had our committee reports. First committee was Economic Improvement and Development. Honorable David Britt, Chairman. Mr. Britt.
Mr. Chairman, the first item the committee recommends the full council is to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a PM new agreement by and between Spartanburg County and Project 3 Ring. I move that we approve this resolution.
We have a motion? And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, or affirmative, and it passes. Thank you.
Last item, the committee recommends to full council that we approve a resolution confirming and ratifying that ESI Drax Miller Service Inc. is a sponsored affiliate under the FEMU agreement ad valorem taxes between Spartanburg County and Drax Miller, one of their sponsor affiliate companies. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, or affirmative, it passes.
That concludes our committee report for council.
Thank you, Mr. Britt. No items under public health. Personnel and finance, Honorable Bill Carpenter, Chairman. Mr. Carpenter, remember the changes on this?
Yes, sir. Chairman, we had several items coming before us today. The first was receive and take information and desired action in reference to the Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee in recognition for the fiscal year 2014. Mr. Chairman, the committee recommends that we have approval of the inclusion into the budget, and I so move, sir.
A motion.
Second.
And a second. Now, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Catherine? Motion, second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? It passes. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is receive information, take desired action in reference to a resolution to adopt the building permit fee schedule so as to establish the cost of building permits in Spartanburg County. Mr. Chairman, our committee recommends that we adopt this resolution, and I so move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, or affirmative, passes.
Mr. Chairman, next item on our agenda is receive information, take desired action in reference to a resolution to designate the county administrator the authority to establish the minimum value per square foot for all the construction permits. Mr. Chairman, our committee recommends we adopt this resolution, and I so move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I have one item, Mr. Chairman. Catherine, is there a procedure that you will go through to determine that minimum value? And if so, can we put that in somewhere where it's kind of dictated what the procedure is?
Sure, Councilman, that most communities use the ICC schedule for establishing what the minimum is. The ICC schedule for Spartanburg is dramatically different than the minimum per square foot value that we currently charge. We currently charge $30 as a minimum. And as part of this proposal, what I would be looking to work with the home builders on is the recommendation to go to $60 as the minimum square feet. I think that's roughly half of what the ICC schedule would provide for Spartanburg County. And then if that's going to be adjusted at all, it would be something that I would bring to you and let you know that I'm considering that adjustment, but it would be in discussion with the home builders. They're the ones who seem to be the most concerned about the minimum dollar per square foot. The commercial permits, they're using a very different approach to how they did their projects and assign the value to them.
So is it, how much of a nightmare would it be to put a cap on it from the ICC? Is that what you call it?
But that would be the maximum that we would.
Right, and then you have the authority to anywhere in there that
Sure.
hinder you at all.
No.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend your motion to include a cap for the maximum value of the home based on the ICC.
We have a motion to amend to set a ceiling on the cap. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, have a second. Now, any other discussion?
Somebody explain that to me one more time, and we're gonna cap the $1 million house, or is that what we just heard? Or?
No, sir. In most communities, the minimum value per square foot of residential construction is set by a table that's established based on criteria for the region and the state for what the predominant going rate is of the value of construction. And Spartanburg County's has been set significantly less than that amount. It's over $100 per square foot in the ICC tables, and the minimum value that we've been allowing is $30 per square foot. And I think what Councilman Nutt is asking in this amendment is to not grant the county administrator the authority to raise the minimum value per square foot beyond what the customary value would be according to this national association that gathers this value. And I certainly have no objection to that. We're significantly below it, and I don't anticipate that we'll touch it. Our building official is here and can certainly answer any specific questions about the ICC tables. Most communities in South Carolina already are setting it at less than that, and we certainly wouldn't want to go beyond what our neighboring counties are establishing anyway. So $60 per square foot is significantly less than that table.
That's fine with me. Any other questions regarding the amendment? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, a vote from the amendment passes. Now, proceed with the.
All right, the next item is.
Hold on, now, let's finish up. Motion and a second. Any other discussion to proceed? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, a vote affirmative, it passes. Thank you. Now, Bill.
All right, now we're going to item C. Receive information. I apologize. Thank you, Jack, for putting that out to you. One of the items that we had on our agenda today was Judge Caldwell came and presented to us her needs for her office, and we heard that. Would anybody on council like to hear this again?
Dale, if we move to the next section, I've got a motion to put in the budget that I think would be what Fonda asked for.
How do we get that out of, from Dale's committee out, since we don't know exactly, I think we have two different plans here that might try to address that issue, so what do you need us to do, Catherine?
Well, in item C coming out of committee, it's my understanding that the Personnel and Finance Committee did hear some discussion about the budget today and referred this to full council with no recommendation at this point. So if the report is no recommendation, of course, council can discuss this item and determine which way you want to go.
And I think that in light of the budget ahead of us, that we would have to discuss the budget to bring that in. So that was the reason I did not call for any action on that point.
Is that kosher with you, Catherine, and we proceed this way? Now, I guess if they take care of this in the next item with the budget, then it'll take care of her request as well.
If you're asking about the probate court request,
Yeah.
it would simply require an amendment. Right now, the second reading as it stands of the budget does not include an estate specialist one, the corresponding office needs for renovations and supplies and furniture. So an amendment would be needed from council in order to add that to the budget.
Keep that in mind as we proceed.
Okay. Now,
Roger?
Are we going to proceed with the budget? Is that what we're doing?
that was my plan.
I think so.
If we're getting ready to do that and vote, I would ask the council allow people that came here to speak about the budget, do so before we continue. I don't know what procedure we have to use to do that. I don't want to vote and then have them speak on the budget.
Roger, you're out of order. They had that privilege, last month.
I'm just asking personal privilege.
I'll second your motion that we adopt our rules to let the people sign them speak.
First of all, this is.
Leave you out of order.
This, first of all, by doing this procedure, I think you need unanimous consent to add this to the agenda. So if you're still good with.
I would like to ask that we add it to the agenda.
Mr. Good with your second, Mr. Brett. Now, any other discussion?
Well, I would certainly like to say that I understand there are two plans that may allay the concerns of any individual that would want to address council. As I understand it, I think both plans address any questions of reduction. I think a number of council members have talked about, and in the fears and concerns, obviously, of county employees, and I can tell you that I don't support any reduction at this point, but I'm sure that will be a part of the discussion with the two plans. So for that, understanding the number of people that we've heard from, I would say that we still have those concerns during the portion of the meeting that should definitely be brought up. So I would want to wait for it, but I just want to
Any other discussion? Right, and I just want to say that there has been significant changes to the budget proposal since the last time we had a public hearing. So I would think, in my opinion, that warrants further public comment. But if we have things to fix, it maybe does. If it doesn't, I would hope that the people would have a chance.
Any other discussion? I think the motion is to maybe bring the public comment period, and people that signed that now forward now.
To allow them to speak before we have any discussion on the budget.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, I vote affirmative, and it passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
When you see the affirmative votes again.
See a sign up sheet.
Well, it doesn't pass because it's not 100% when you're not.
Sure, it's not unanimous.
Sorry. My bad.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, it just seems like if they hear the plans, then they can comment. But
Is
you know,
there-
they'll be commenting on something that they've not been privy to yet, if we do it.
In light of what Jane stated she just made, we came back after the discussion and asked for the public comment section, we can do that at that time? I mean, is there any rule of order that would stop that?
You can make a motion.
Make a motion, see how it goes there.
Okay. Just want to clarify that. All right, can I go to section C now? All right, here we go. Receive information and take desired action in reference to a budget ordinance related to the fiscal affairs of Spartanburg County, making appropriations, therefore levying taxes for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2013, and ending June the 30th, 2014, and to provide budget control set appropriations by the Spartanburg County Council. Mr. Chairman, our committee recommends that we render third reading for the ordinance.
Well, I guess what you're referencing is the one that's in place at the current time, so, that is up.
Mr. Chairman, I second that, and I got some amendments I'd like to put up.
We did have a second by Mr. Mintz. Mr. Mintz has some amendments.
First off, I've got two, and I'd like to keep the forward. I'll run these two, and then I'll yield it back to anybody else. I'd like, in the outside agencies, I'd like to reduce the funding in outside agencies by 50% for the Middle Tiger community and the Upstate Resource Center, 50% each for the legal entity. That would legal amend the budget, but cut them by 50%. And I have talked to Kelly Ezel with the State Family Resource Center. These are school district run programs. They're great programs, but in light of the situation with the money that we're fighting for and struggling for every day to run this county, that's my motion.
One was Middle Tiger, what was the other one?
Upstate Family Resource Center, and it actually, they get $8,550, and I'm reducing them by 50% each.
What was that figure again, Bill? 4750?
They get $8,550, I believe, is what's in the budget. I'm reducing them by 50% each on both. I mean, if we go back and find a budget fund next year, then I wouldn't hesitate to move it right back up with in line with what we have today.
It's $8,550.
Yes, it'll save $8,550 between the two.
Is that
For each one of them?
That's what each one of them gets, but what you're actually, what you're cutting totally is 50% of that of each one.
Is that amendment one?
Yes.
That is amendment one. So amendment one is to reduce funding on those two agencies to half this year. There's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Now, further discussion.
I think I didn't know how this,
Yeah,
fits
that
in with
was
everything
kinda
else,
like-
just vote on, I don't know how we could
Why
vote on
don't
this.
you lay out your stuff and I'll lay out my stuff?
individual.
Well, that's not the way the rules play. I'd love to hear it, but according to the rules, we've got to, that we followed, then.
Well, we just talked
I'll
about
have the
hearing.
floor, I'll lay my amendments out, and then you can have the floor and lay yours out.
Point of order. I believe we're in open discussion about the budget, which means we can hear each council member for a total of 5 minutes. And I think it behooves us to hear whatever plans we have and not pick one and have to vote yea or nay until we hear what the other plans are.
Mr. Chairman, we follow Robert's rule, and that's not Robert's rule. Would somebody please explain that? I've got an amendment on the floor, I need a vote on it, I've got one more than one make, and I'm gonna.
Well, it doesn't make any sense if, we talked about hearing both the plans and we're not voting on them.
No, we didn't talk about it, we voted to not hear that.
What we were talking about when Dale was giving his report.
I guess I need a ruling on point of order, Mr. Harris. Jenny, We do have a motion on the table that we have to vote on. Once we vote on that,
That motion is the budget as it stands.
that budget is amending it by this 50% for these two agencies, and then we can vote on that, and then we can have some discussion.
Debbie Lou, you keep it straight.
And then I want to make my, presentation on the budget, and I'll take a look at it, see if you like it or you don't like it. We vote it up or down.
There's no motion on the table.
Right now, we have a amendment.
With respect to the local rules under 6.6, it states that anyone wishing to speak more than 5 minutes on any question or any amendment to the question shall be accorded the privilege without objection or upon motion supported by 2/3 of the council members present. And under, so we would at this time, we would have the ability for a council member to speak for at least 5 minutes.
And I think I can do it.
Uh,
Is this in the discussion period about the motion that we have on the
About the
table?
amendment.
Because there's two amendments.
Yeah, but I've got, Robert's rule says, once I get the floor and I got my amendments, I can lay my amendments out. And
Yeah, go ahead, lay them out. We'll listen to them. And I'll
well,
do my 5 minutes.
I'm gonna ask for a vote on them, and you more than welcome to ask for a vote on yours, but, I'm gonna ask for a vote. But I do, we're out of order right now, we got a motion.
Explanation of what is allowed by a council member. The point of order asked by Roger Dye. She just explained it. You can lay both your amendments out. Go ahead, and I have the privilege of having 5 minutes to lay my plan out before a vote. It only makes sense.
We do have to vote on that first amendment, though. We have a motion on the table in a second.
And when you hear my motion, you may not even have to reduce them 50%. Probably won't.
Chairman, I call for a vote on the amendment. I'll explain mine, and let Mr. Mayor explain his. I don't have a problem with that. That's not following Robert's rule.
It does sound like you got a problem with it.
Made a motion, and, we need a.
We're still in discussion. We need a 2/3 vote to approve the question. We don't get a 2/3, we don't get 5 people to vote, then we can have more comment here.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's called for the question, so we need a vote for calling for the question.
That is correct.
And you need a second.
Jane, second.
Okay, you need a vote on calling for the question.
5 votes to move forward.
Now, I've got an amendment on the floor that.
If you call for the question, it takes 5 votes in this panel to call for the question. Or that's, I'm sorry, that's something that.
Need a vote.
O'Neill called, he called the question.
We need a vote.
So we have to vote for the
So
question.
I'm clear as mud, so we,
Voting to go.
so I call for the question on the amendment.
With respect to the call for a question, in order for the call for a question, what you're doing is stopping the debate. And so in order to stop the debate, you would need a motion and a second, and there would be a 2/3 vote of council in order to stop
But
the
we're
debate.
still
to
debating
proceed
the First Amendment. I'm gonna yield to Mr. Britt on the second one. I'm gonna lay my plan out, lay his out. We've got an amendment on the floor to.
Just call the question, says
Well, but you call, I mean, we're not debating
It's over.
your
Let's vote.
right to that, but you called the question, which means that you have to have a vote to call the question.
Good, I hope you voted down, then we say to outside agencies, let's stick with that $550.
I mean, you say you want to go by the rules, so that's.
I think we're
I think we're out of order
$1
here.
for taxpayers, not $8,500.
Can we recess 10 minutes and
All
get
in,
these?
well, first of all, we're gonna get this out of the way. All in favor, raise your hand.
What are we in favor of?
All in
I'm not gonna vote because I think that it saves my upstate family resources, and I'm gonna vote against it. I'm gonna yield with y'all, but I think we out of order.
Are you kidding?
Yea or nay? No yeas? Nay? Nay.
Okay, we're still in debate of that question.
Why don't you go ahead and lay out your amendment 2?
Now, we're still debating this question.
What are we debating now?
We're debating your question.
Why don't you just lay out the 2%?
Hush, David, I'm listening to Robert right now. He's sitting over there looking at Robert Ruth. Tell me what.
Councilman Mitch, we're debating whether or not to vote for your amendment.
Okay. So I'm gonna leave the amendment up then, huh?
That's right.
Good. We got that far out of you.
Now, 2. Go ahead with amendment 2.
No, we're still debating that amendment.
Yeah.
We haven't voted on it yet. There's more discussion.
You can only do one amendment at a time.
And while we're having discussion, I'm gonna vote against it, because I think we'll lay out a plan in 2 minutes, and we'll save that $8,500. We just spent $8,500 worth of time talking about it.
Discuss or vote?
Any further discussion?
Yeah, let's vote. We will in favor. Raise your right hand.
What are we voting on?
It's your amendment.
We're voting on to take the $8,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, I vote for that.
All opposed?
Thank you. Now, I'll lay this plan out.
So it failed, right?
It did. Okay, that's good. The second amendment was, and I'm just gonna lay this out, and we'll look at Mr. Britt's amendment too. In light of some things that's come before council, and in light of what was given to us of the effects that it would have here, I would ask that we reduce the amendment of 5%, take it down to 2.5%. It would be a motion that, there's been some discussion as to the elected officials. There's some monies there that we can't take. Catherine would have to explain that to you. And what it would do would decrease the employee's portion of the insurance premiums by half of the proposed increases that is laid on the table today. It would fund the probate court needs for an estate specialist and provide for the necessary renovations, office equipment, and related expense. And it would set a fund, a contingency fund in the amount of $1.5 million for health insurance in the future. And Ms. Hubbard would have to explain that to you, so I would yield to her if she can explain in the rest of my 5 minutes.
Well, Councilman Mintz, as I understand your proposal, what you're asking for is, as a goal, reducing the employee premiums by half of the proposed increase. And we went through those earlier in the committee meeting, what the effect of that would be on the actual premiums themselves. Adding the probate estate specialist and the associated costs, and taking $1.5 million of the revenues that would be achieved through these cuts and adding that to a contingency fund balance for health insurance. And taking a look at that particular option, it's roughly half of what you have at your seat. The outside agencies would still be reduced by $146,852. That represents the reduction of the boys' home plus 15% across the board, with several exceptions that we've talked about in committee and at the work session. However, in order to achieve a 2.5% across the board, there still wouldn't be enough funding from operating and minor capital reductions to achieve the roughly $2 million in reductions. So as a first step, I would be recommending to council a hiring freeze in lieu of a layoff or any type of reduction in hours or furlough, and reevaluate where we are each quarter with achieving the established savings that is to go to the health insurance fund balance. That hiring freeze would have to be across the board for all departments, so that would affect law enforcement, public safety, and all of the departments from the courthouse to the administration building, any other departments that are funded from the health insurance. I'd also recommend that we take a look at our existing services for anything that could possibly be bid out from health insurance to, I've heard some suggestions from the departments about taking a look at fleet services, fuel, those types of services that we have and have our departments actually bid that as well. See if there's any savings that can be achieved from that.
And this would, Karen, what I'm trying to avoid is this freight train next year. David's plan may let that out, and may not, but at least get us down the road as we go with this. That sounds like to me what would keep us from laying people off. That's the key period here, is to try to get through that. But we've got, going forward, we've got major problems with insurance, unless Miracle Boy over here's got a super plan.
Well, Councilman, it's the one thing that I want to.
Miracle Boy has a much better plan than what you came up with last week. And I think all the people out there are saying the same thing, all the phone calls. I want to thank Spartanburg County for stepping up and being counted. What you did last Wednesday was reckless. It was ill thought out, poor policy. I just got started. I'm going to get into my stuff in just a minute. All right. First of all, no,
we got a motion on the floor.
Councilman Brown had something to say.
No, I didn't make mine. I'm gonna let David tell his plan, and then we can come back and see what's going on.
I certainly want to thank both of these warring factions here. It's always good for debate in terms of what we do, but I guess having the only opinion, not only what we need to do this year, but in the future, I would again advise this council that we do need to take a look at our road plus CPI. We often talk about being the fourth largest county, but we're the only county out of those big four that are not taking our road plus CPI. So we can try to address some of our issues. I don't know, both these plans may do it just for this year, and may do it hopefully for the future from what we do here, but you got to deal with the reality. One of the things that I heard our probate judge say, and a number of our other elected officials have said to me in private, and I spend each and every day what I do in my business dealing with the employees of the county and dealing with the department heads and knowing what they're facing. This county is growing, so you have to make an account for this county growing. You can't keep on saying cut. It sounds good for some political factions, but I'm not here for politics. I'm here to tell the truth. And if you look at every other county, what they're doing statewide, we're one of the few that are talking about making cuts. So I'm not asking for a tax increase, I'm asking for what is proper for a county that's grown since the last time we took a look at this 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, we did do growth with CPI. This county has grown. So hopefully, in terms of what we do in the future, we will address that. Not cutting 5%, not cutting anything that's going to take away from the services that have to be provided from the people that come. And I've shared this with others, and it's a joke that I've heard, but it's quite true. Say what you will about the South, but people don't retire in the North. They retire in the South. From that, we do have needs that have to be met. You're gonna have to face that reality. So I understand that, and I would hope that we can address that. Secondly, as it relates to our health care, our insurance costs, I've asked and I've asked and I've asked and I've asked again, and that's why I asked for the first workshop that we had to get information. And I understand this new health care provision still is questionable, but we have to take again a look at what we do as a county in terms of our health insurance. It's being self-insured is the best policy. There's something that we can look to in terms of what's been done with our state insurance as a whole. From the information I've received, it's not always a good thing because you can come bankrupt. You can be the big four if you want, but you may be the last in the pile in terms of the money that you're facing. So with that, I want to say I thank all the people that I've encouraged to come talk to me, people that call me, the employees that I see every day, knowing that I'm not here to cut any jobs. I don't even want you to take furloughs. So that's not what I'm here for. And I know realistically, that's not what any of these members of council are here for, because we have had multiple discussions since the last time we talked. So just know we're here to try to preserve jobs and we want to do the right thing. And I do appreciate each and every one of you for considering this.
You know what amazes me is that all these folks turned out tonight, and since I guess the last 5 days have responded overwhelmingly to a motion to cut budgets 5%. And that should send a very strong message. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, whether you're Tea Party, whether you're a birthday party, whatever. If you believe in efficient, effective government, and you're willing to pay for it, because you didn't just jump on board their motion last week and say, yeah, cut, cut, cut. You're smart, you're intelligent, you realize that where we live, we have to make investments. So I appreciate that. That should send a very strong statement to all over the state that Spartanburg County is interested in being an efficient, effective government. And with that, you got to deliver services. I got an email today. It's just, I think it's just provincial or whatever, that it came to me because it said, honesty is the first chapter of the Book of Wisdom. That was written by Thomas Jefferson. So it's time to get a little honest. You know, and there's another quote I have on my desk. The most important thing in communication is hearing what is not said. And again, if you go back and look at what happened last Wednesday and some of the stuff tonight, it rings very true. Because I got really 3 key questions to ask. Who came up with this 5% cut? O'Neill, was it your plan? Was it Michael's? Was it Jeff's? Was it Jane? All 4 voted for it. Who came up with this plan? I really want to know. Because I know it didn't come up last Wednesday at 11:45. Thankfully, Roger tapes these meetings, and I went back and watched his post. You were reading off a prepared text over there while you were making your amendment to my motion. So who came up with this plan? I think the public's been asking me too. They want to know. I think the folks out here would like to know. Second question, when did y'all come up with the plan, the 5% cut? I mean, when did this happen? And like I say, it didn't happen during the meeting. There was obviously a lot of discussion before we came in here that I sure would have liked to have heard. I know Roger and Dale would have liked to have heard. I think the public would like to have heard. All right, and then the third, why? Why would you do it? Again, going back to Thomas Jefferson's quote, honesty is the first chapter of the Book of Wisdom. Was it about retaliation, vindictiveness, the ability to silence certain elected officials like our sheriff, like our clerk of court, like our auditor, like the coroner. I think there was a few that I talked to, our treasurer. Was this an ability to silence not only them, because they were speaking on behalf of their employees, but also the employees that work for us. They reached out through different forms of communication to let us know, to let me know what was going on. But yet, was this a diversionary tactic? As Chuck Wright, Sheriff Wright, when he's getting ready to go into a house to get the bad guys, they explode something at the back door, right, Sheriff? You get the attention over there, so you're not watching the front door. And it was all about this insurance. Employees were screaming and yelling because we're going up in insurance. So how best to get their attention the other way? And I won't call it like it is. I'm tired of it. This vindictiveness, retribution has been going on for about a year and a half. And it started with the whole Greg Hall deal. When he was put on our planning commission, and Councilman Nutt found out that he didn't live in Spartanburg County, he lived in Greenville. So what happens? Roger's a recipient of tons of retribution. They're going to teach him how to get in line. He wasn't the only one. If you recall, back in January when the vice chairman vote came up, guess who else got it? Because it didn't go along with O'Neill's vote on term limits, as was David Burnett. Now, Whit Kennedy, he'll be a victim of it too, and several other board members across the group. No, don't interrupt me. You did it the other day. Don't even start.
You have 2 more minutes.
No, I've got.
No, you have 2 more minutes.
No, we didn't go with the other deal. You just interrupted for 30 seconds. And I'm Bill Culbert's a victim of this retribution. I've heard just in the last 5 days that certain council members are out there trying to recruit a candidate to run against him because he voted against the budget. He voted against the parks deal. Voted against last Wednesday's deal on the 5% cut. It's time for this retribution. Stop. Cut it out. The sheriff spoke back in May at the Republican ladies group over in Greer. A question was asked of him, what do you think about this Parks and Rec tax increase? He spoke to the group of ladies and whoever men that were there, said he didn't agree with it. Called O'Neill out in a very nice way, wasn't ugly about it. And guess what happens? Now all heck breaks loose. O'Neill asked him to make another video, and he included you guys in it. So what happens? Good way to shut the sheriff up by cutting his budget $1.1 million just in the sheriff's department last Wednesday, and now he's got to jail $780,000. It would cost him to lose under your plan that before today's plan 45 and a half employees. And the clerk of court's office, well, how many people are you going to lose? 3. But don't worry, Judge Caldwell, where are you? We're going to give you 1 person, but we're going to cut 1.5 people out. Yeah, this is a game that's being played. The solicitor's office. How hard have we worked to get the solicitor, Verity Barnett? Now he's going to lose 4.5 people under the old plan. The coroner, 1.5. The treasurer, 1.3. You're talking about 62 people. That was a great plan that not Miracle Boy came up with last week, but O'Neill. All right. Okay, well, we may not do that. Let's just take a 5% cost reduction. The average employee in Spartanburg County makes $38,700 a year. You cut their salary by 5%, that's $162 a month. To make up for an insurance plan, all right, that's what's going on. It's time for that mess to stop. What I've done, thanks to Captain Mark Berry in the Sheriff's Department, insurance plan. I've been told for 10 years, and this isn't Catherine's deal, that for 10 years I've been told the state insurance plan is not a good plan. It's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. Well, I talked to the state insurance officials today. I also talked to a couple of counties across the state that have the plan. Just to give you an alphabetical order, I'll just give you a few that are similar to us. Aiken, Anderson, Charleston, Horry, York, Dorchester, Florence, Greenwood, our neighbors, Lawrence. They're all members of the state insurance plan. I talked to one county that's been in there for 20 years. And what they said is, it's not the Cadillac plan, but it's very similar to what we did have. If we go with the state insurance plan, just looking at the 211 employees that have family coverage, you know how much their plan would save this county? $763,702. Just on the 211 employees. That doesn't count all the other Then we have 500 that has just family, just employee coverage. We're talking about $1.2 million. We don't need to cut 5%. We don't need to cut 2.5%. Let's direct our county administrator and our HR folks. Let's work with the state insurance plan. Get it on board. Full family coverage, it costs $306 a month. That's what it costs right now. And our plan is even more than that right now. And I said, well, what's this going to cost the county? I looked at that. It'll cost the county $770 a month. That's their new coverage for 13. I thought, my gosh, that's $1,000. But guess what we're paying right now for those 211 employees? We're paying $1,330 a month. That's where you get the $750 or plus $1,000, $750,000. Mr. Chairman, I move that we direct our county administrator to move forward with the state insurance plan. It will be better for our employees. There won't be any cost. There are no deductions. It will save Spartanburg County money and give our departments that deserve it. You know, I've heard enough about this local government fund too. I ate a little bit of this weekend. We've complained about the legislature not fully funding us. How does Greenville? How does Anderson? How does we're telling our 7 elected officials, you do what we tell you. Because if you don't, we're going to cut you more. We've heard that from Columbia. At least we claim that to be the case. Let's move forward. Let's get our county administrator moving. And we can pass the budget tonight. No tax increase. There's no tax increase. No employee deductions or cuts. And we'll move us forward in a positive way.
Catherine, I know y'all have looked at this in the past, you know, it hasn't been brought up as an option. Is it something that can be done?
Mr. Chairman, if council directs me to do that, we'll make it happen.
And,
I just got it during our meeting. Another half-assed. I talked to the folks this morning that were faxing me stuff as we've been working today.
all right. Any other discussion? I will say Sheriff came up here and said he prayed for me this weekend. My fax been out all weekend, Sheriff.
I think my building's on fire. It's got a fire issue. I do pray for it.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Make
Thank
sure
you.
that-
Appreciate being here.
When you say you will make it happen, what do you mean?
Well, it's my understanding from Councilman Britt is that this would need to go into effect as absolutely soon as possible. The current plan year ends June 30th. So without the opportunity to talk to the state health plan officials, I don't know whether we can have it in place by July 1st, but that would be my goal. I'm not sure how this affects open enrollment, but if this is council's will, we're going to expedite the transition, and I can make sure that you're aware of how that expedited plan would look.
So you recognize that there's a savings now?
I defer to Councilman Britt's research that he has received today.
The research didn't show this when I asked, right?
Well, Councilman or Vice Chairman Brown, I know that I looked at the state health insurance plan when I was at Lexington. I know the staff had looked at it here in Spartanburg. The state health insurance plan requires a 4-year commitment, and there is an adjustment that's made in the second year. I'm assuming that Councilman Britt's information that's coming from the state health insurance plan is indicative of there not being an increase down the road that we could sustain within our health insurance.
I just want to for the record, when David asked, this information is good, I asked, I didn't get the same answer, so I just wanted to for the record.
Well, Vice Chairman Brown, I defer to Councilman, I defer to Councilman
I know
Britt's
this has been
information.
brought up before.
That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I've talked to a lot of people about state insurance. And they've all advised me, including you, to stay away from it. I've talked about people that served in the House for years, what we can actually, what's available to us. That second year is very scary. But I'm appalled that Mr. Britt would make his sermon and charge all you people up and bring Greg Hall into this mix, because Greg Hall has nothing to do with this. Greg Hall was ruled legal for the Election Commission to a trial twice. He resigned. He didn't, if I'm correct, he resigned. He had nothing to do with this. He's a great businessman. And he was voted one of the 50 most important people to help Greenville County. We walked away from that. I'm appalled that you think that the local government funds, that they can keep $16.6 million of our money. We should say, we should tell them thank you. Somebody's out there telling them thank you.
Source of all your appalls.
I did.
They don't even register on my scale.
Yeah, it don't hurt my feelings, David, because you lie so much, we can't tell you the truth when you're lying.
Anything else regarding the motion?
I think the state insurance plan is the wrong way to go, and I don't think it's fixes this thing for us down the road. If this council, that's what this council wants to do, then if you vote for it, I won't vote for it because I don't think it's the right way to go. And based on all I've been told, yeah, you're an insurance expert. I'd like to hear from you before we vote on this.
I know nothing about large group per se, O'Neill. I just know that, I know Michael has asked before, and I've asked to investigate the state pool. For whatever reason, it has not been submitted by administration as a viable option. Now, Mr. Britt, that's numbers, sound good, Captain. I would like you to look at the second, third, and fourth year, and what their increases may be.
And Chairman Horton, and these are things that we can talk about, council and me, as we move through the adjustment. We'll have a series of run-out claims, as you would be aware, so there still would need to be enough money in the budget for the upcoming year for us to take care of the claims that are being incurred in May and June through June the 30th. As we go through that transition, for any plan that we change to, we have that run-out claim. So without the opportunity to talk with the state health insurance plan administrators and work with Blue Choice on the run-out claims for this year, I don't have the benefit of being able to share with you how the next 6 months will look, or year 2, 3, and 4. If this is council's will, of course, I've told you this before, I'll tell you it again. If this is council's will, we certainly are going to move forward to make this successful.
I think hold on one second, Dale. I think one comment about what was trying to be accomplished. Again, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not the pearly gates. It's called the Affordable Care Act freight train that's headed our way. And I think that was the purpose of the reduction in trying to set aside money to get ahead of that particular curve. So I don't know how this motion changes anything, and I still think that all fire departments, school boards still are going to have to face the reality of the Affordable Care Act as it moves forward. So I don't think this particular motion addresses that. It may save some money this year, but again, I don't know how the pool will handle the Affordable Care Act. Hopefully you can get us an answer on that shortly. Dale, Roger.
Chairman, I just want to clarify or get clarification on the question that Councilman Britt made. Are we going back to the budget as originally proposed on the first reading minus the increase in premiums for employees?
Yes, and also my motion would include no increase in Parks and Rec either.
Okay. And also it would include the position, one position for
Judge Caldwell.
as well as the renovation.
Yeah, and that's what my motion was last week. We go with Catherine's recommendation of 3.5% and cover Judge Caldwell with her employee and her remodeling. Yeah, and Jeff, I talked to a couple of these folks, these counties about that Affordable Care Act. The good thing is, they're out of 46 counties. I think they're close to 30 in the state plan. The good news is you've got a group, and they all are tackling the Affordable Care Act questions. They're experts, big groups, small groups that haven't figured it out. And I would rather be in a group of thousands of like-minded South Carolina citizens and let them. We sure haven't done a good job since we've been doing what we do. We're not insurance. But that's a good point.
Councilman, to make sure that I'm clear on the discussion about premiums, the state health insurance plan establishes the employee premium. So your motion, as I understand it, it's been made and seconded, as I understand where we are, would adopt the state health insurance plan and the employee rates. They actually have more than one plan, but it would adopt those rates. The county contribution is what is negotiated with the state.
Yeah, I think my question was, we have the operating budget, and we have an amount of that going out to employee coverage and insurance. That the budget is the same as it was on our first reading, and then you take what, if there was money left over from that or whatever, then I don't know where that money goes, if it's cheaper and what that does, and I think that's something we need to address. I want to make sure his motion was the first reading of the budget, where we were with expenditures on health insurance.
In the state health insurance plan, as I understand it, the employees will make their contribution and the state will assign the county its charges for participation. Until I have the opportunity to have that information, I won't know how much money from the county's contribution for health insurance to its self-insured plan will be needed for the state. In July, and trying to think through this as Councilman Britt's been talking, in July I would anticipate a budget amendment resolution that would help us to identify what our contribution would be for plan year that begins July 1st, 2014. If it's possible to make this adjustment effective July 1st, 2013 for the fiscal year 14 budget. Now, we'll have to get an estimate from Blue Choice on what they think our claims will be for runoff, but honestly, it'll be closer to November or December before I can bring you what the claims were for the current plan year. So with council's indulgence on trying to work through this transition, we'll bring a series of budget amendments to get the fiscal year 14 budget straight. The employee premiums that were forecasted for the budget simply come out of this equation because those premiums are going to be set by the state and collected to go to the state. So we'll have to reevaluate the employer contribution as a result of that.
What they told me real quickly is the employee contribution on the standard plan is basically 80-20 we have is $306.56 for the employees. For us, and they said we got it on the website because I thought they might try to monkey with us or whatever, it's $770.12 for a total of $1,076. And we're a large county. So we're grouped in the large county funds. So then that's what they faxed me or emailed me and said it's right there, you can go. And we put it out there for everyone to see. And I've got the 2009, 2010, 2011 rates that they sent me during the meeting. They were pulling the 12 and 13 rates up. So you can see for yourself, it hasn't gone up much. They said it did go up 6.7% this year, but our experience was $4 million ourselves.
Mr. Chairman, so.
Yes, sir, you did mention something a moment ago, Mr. Douglas.
When we went self-insured, we went forward with the idea that we were gonna make things better for our employees. And that's the reason we did it enthusiastically. And I seconded Mr. Britt's motion for the fact that apparently our one self-insured was not the best thing for our employees. I think that if we have an opportunity to change that and it will reduce the cost for our employees, I think it's a good thing. Is there a possibility it'll go up next year? Yes, there is a possibility it'll go up next year. But I can assure you that it didn't go up this year for our policy.
One question I have, in order to, you want to get the numbers that check out potential state plans. Is there a way that we can hold our budget in place now, since you're saying we're gonna have to come back and do an amendment anyway, or?
Vice Chairman Brown, the best that I can offer as advice is that every time you go into third reading, you don't have a crystal ball knowing what emergencies the county is going to face, state mandates that may be required. My recommendation to council is, if this is the direction that you want to go ahead and pass third reading with this direction to me. In fact, instruct me to find $80,000 to take care of the probate court staff addition that you want. And when we come back in July for your regularly scheduled meeting, we'll start a process of a series of budget amendments to incorporate in probate court. I'll show you where that funding comes from the information that Councilman Britt's been given. It should come from the savings of health insurance. And then if it doesn't, you can make an adjustment. If there's any reason why we can't meet our expenses going forward, we can make an adjustment any month for any reason. Like I've shared with some of you, we don't know if there's going to be a problem with a roof, a problem with a air conditioning unit, some expensive change that happens after July 1st. We'll just need to make those adjustments going forward. I would suggest that if this is the will of council, that you adopt third reading with the instruction to move to the state health insurance plan, and I'll come back to you as quickly as I can with what that transition will look like, pay the run-out claims, and take care of probate court through a series of budget amendments.
Can I say one quick thing, Joe? I mean, I didn't come up with this stuff. I mean, Sheriff Wright, Captain Mark Berry, Pope Blackley, Sharon West, Rusty Clevenger, Lindsay. I mean, your efforts. Y'all sent me information last week. All I did was make some phone calls and follow up. Sheriff Wright's been on this thing for a long time talking to us. And Captain Berry sent me a ton of information. The state insurance plan guys, they're the ones that talked me through it and explained it, along with some other counties.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask one more question, because I want to be correct. I don't want to put you on the spot, but Catherine, I asked you about state insurance, and did you specifically tell me that was not a good route? Is that what I heard you say?
I'm sorry, Councilman Mims.
I asked you about state insurance, and did you specifically tell me that was not a good option for Spartanburg County? Is that?
Councilman Mims, I did not recommend going with the state's health insurance plan. I don't have the information that Councilman Britt's been given today, so I defer to the information they've provided to him.
Mr. Chairman. When we went with state, with our own self-insured plan, when was that, 2 years ago?
Yep, 22. Yeah.
It's 2 years. You had made that decision before I came to Spartanburg County. It was done July of 2011.
We had gone through all of this. We had looked extensively at the state health plan. We saw how it increases every year, and that we really had a no man's land idea of exactly how much it would raise, depending on our claims and different things of that sort. And we pretty much passed the self-insured plan because David had experience with his company with being self-insured, and others had as well. It's obvious that our claims and the fact that we do have an essentially unhealthy population of employees has driven up the cost. And it will drive up the cost regardless of what kind of insurance plan it is. I'm willing for you to look at it. I am not willing to pass third reading on this. As a matter of fact, I moved to lay the budget ordinance on the table to give council time to work on possible solutions to obtain a balanced budget that's in the best interest of Spartanburg County, its employees, and its citizens.
I'll get a motion on the table first. It's got a second on it, so we need to vote on my motion. And again, you're going back to 2 years ago, we were being faced with a huge insurance premium escalation with the company that we were with. That's why we chose to go self-insured to get us out from under that right then. Yeah, I think we've all asked questions. Michael's asked questions, Emil's asked questions, all of us have asked questions about the state insurance plan. We all hear how big a boogeyman they are. Right here, this is from the folks here. The employer premiums remained the same in 09 and 10, and then they had an adjustment in 11 and 13. It was less than 6%. Here are all the counties in highlighted there, and the cities. The cities aren't, but the counties are highlighted who has a state insurance plan. So it's Florence, Horry, Charleston, all these have made tremendous mistakes. Why have they stayed in it 22 years? I'm tired of listening to somebody tell me it's not good, stay away from it. We got the proofs in the pudding, let's do it. And there's a motion on the table with
I'd like to know exactly what the motion is.
that we direct,
Restate it.
I move that we direct our county administrator to go forward with the state insurance plan, which is going to save us potentially $1.2 million. We don't have to have a tax increase. Also, to remove the Parks and Rec millage increase from the budget.
I'd like to discuss it.
Yeah, was there another one? And add the employee for the probate court with the remodel. I think we can do all these things. I think the initiative that O'Neill tried to get passed last week, or in that budget thing up in Chesney, I think you'll be able to take care of your Chesney senior citizen up there, O'Neill, with some of these savings and moving forward. So I think you ought to look at this very seriously, and that's the motion.
Dave,
I'd like the floor.
Do you have the amount of the savings again?
Yeah. Well, I have it on just the 211 employees. That's what we worked off of. We have 211 employees with family coverage here in Spartanburg County. Their coverage for full family, the employer portion, $770.12. The employee portion is $306. What we currently have right now, if you want that information, I'll give it to you. But if you add that up, that's $1,076. Today, right now, this is no insurance adjustments or increases. This is what we're paying right now, $1,330 per employee for full family coverage right now. The savings on that, just going with the state plan, is $763,000, $772. So that's it. And that's just on family coverage. We have 500 and something employees that I think have just employee coverage.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like-
Discussion.
Thank you. I'm gonna put these up here because I'm gonna use these as little demonstrations today. I know y'all need a little fun, so we'll have some. The reinstatement of the 5/10 of a mil to parks is not a new increase in taxes. After attempting to operate programs at an 8/10 of a mil decrease, Parks has learned it is stretched too thin to continue with programs. Key word here is programs. What are these programs, and exactly what does a 5/10 of a mil increase mean? Programs such as after-school care and summer programs for youth in the towns of Packlet, Inman Mills, Woodruff, and a new program that has just started up in NRE. Because I was having complaints from citizens concerned about these children who just ran free, just like the animals down there. And they were very, They were very, very concerned that these children were unsupervised and that they were not getting anything to eat in a day's time. So we arranged with some private people down there, the Chapmans, who own some property down there from Chapman Mills, to establish a place of safety and a haven for these children, so that they do have somewhere to go now. And it's a supervised, and they get a meal a day. So we're very thankful for this program. Now, with that said, let's look at our two most vulnerable people in our population. It's the children and it's the seniors. This new program in Chesney, let's see, I do believe it was attended by the Lieutenant Governor, and I'd like to just read you something that he said. I commend the county for taking a step in the right direction. Some of you might see senior centers as a brick and mortar building, But I see a home away from home where seniors are able to interact with each other for stimulation mentally and physically, and are able to retain their independence and freedom. This Chesney Center is going to be a pilot program for Spartanburg County to look at partnering with other private citizens and industry in the way that they have done in Chesney with private citizens, Terry Cash being number one, and with Spartanburg Regional Medical Center to provide care and service for the seniors. Now, I bought these today. It cost me $2.98. This 5/10 of a meal is going to cost an average $100,000 home an additional $2 a year on your taxes. Now, I don't know about you, but I can avoid drinking one of these in 1 year's time to be able to put food in a child's mouth and to give some type of social interaction to a senior who otherwise may go from week to week without seeing or talking to anyone.
Amen.
Now, if you do not feel strongly that this is something that needs to be done, then let's vote this ordinance down with this 5/10 of a meal increase. And you weigh and carry the weight of these children and these seniors on your shoulders. And I want to know, each and every one of you, how many times you stopped and visited a senior and held their hand and said, look, it's so good to be with you. I've done it, and I've been told, Jane, if you had to come by here, I wouldn't be able to talk to anybody or see anybody in person all week long. Now, I think that is a crime, a social crime. And that is what this program of 5/10 of a meal increase is designed to do, is to get children off the streets with good supervision and some food in their bellies, and seniors some social interaction. Now, if you think that's too much to ask of you to avoid a Coke in a year's time, then I ask every 6 of these people on this board to not vote for this 5/10 of a meal increase. I guarantee you one thing, and I can tell this to every single person in here. You're not getting any younger, but God willing, you will get older. And there will come a time in your life when you'll want somebody to talk to. Now, these seniors get that in these programs. And these programs aren't just in Chesney starting. It's already established in Woodruff. It's already established in Packard. And we need to get these programs all throughout Spartanburg County, because our seniors are very important to us. Our population is aging. And one day, my friend, you and I will want to have some type of involvement with some other human being too. So if this is too much to ask, if you want to take this 5/10 of a meal out and take some food out of a child's belly and all the other things that social interaction can do, then you go right ahead. Otherwise, go and buy yourself a Coke.
Chairman, let me ask one more question. Because I do want mine voted on too, I think. Obviously, I need to shut down. Growth plus CPI. That'll cover any questions that we have right now in terms of our budgetary matters. If we came back and also took a look at the insurance plan, that would just be an additional benefit to the county.
Yes, sir.
Do you like to stay?
But I have no question in my mind that Councilman Britt has been given very accurate information, so I'm not challenging his information. And I need to have the opportunity to talk with them to be sure that I can bring back the amendment to the budget.
They don't want to mess with the airport.
And Mr. Chairman, I would like to say one more thing.
MB.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to say one more thing. since we're recording what we would like to have seen happen with this ordinance. I also have been pushing CPI plus growth. I know that is a tax increase, and I am so sorry for some of you people. But when you get service delivery compromised, then it no longer becomes an internal problem with the employees here. It becomes a county-wide resident problem. And we've heard Ponda talk about how extended the time frame is going to be to even get personal representation identified for some of these families. That's service delivery. That is a problem. There are times when there must be a tax increase, and this tax increase is to allow services to continue in the way that we have recognized them. It will also give us some money, am I wrong, Catherine, in which we can put over to the side for some insurance funding in the future. And I have to agree with Mr. Horton when he talks about this is a train and it's going in a tunnel, and what's looking back at him is not the gates, the pearly gates. It's not sun rising, it's the sun setting, and it's going to get worse and worse. Obamacare is going to tax us more. We are going to, if we continue to provide insurance, it's going to really, really tax us. Greenville County has already done figures. It looks as if they're going to be assessed through the Affordable Care Act this coming year around $800,000. Now, we've estimated that our assessment's going to be around $100,000. But do you think it's going to stop there? It's not going to stop. Things are getting worse and worse and worse. And next year will not be any better. Now, we can Band-Aid this thing. We can look at new insurance, and I'm all for that. But I think we've waited right down to the 11th hour to do all of this. Now, we have got to come together, work together, and try to come up with a plan.
There was no 11th hour, Mike, I'll get to you. There was no 11th hour. The county administrator's been working on this budget since December. All the county departments, the elected officials have been working on this thing. They had a recommendation last Wednesday for us to deal with. Didn't cause a tax increase, 3.5% on non-essential. She was ready to roll. And then this 5% across the board cut came. Tell you what I think we ought to do too. We did this in Jeff, we did it 2 years ago. We had the corrective action team with our clerk of court, Hope Blackley, Sharon West, and Judge Caldwell working with Roger Dell and myself, you formed the committee. I think we ought to be sitting down monthly with the 7 elected officials as a council and our administrator, just to be sitting down talking. Because fortunately at the 11th hour, Sheriff Wright and the other team members came up with the savings that we have on the health insurance. And I thank goodness that y'all did it. So we ought to be sitting down with y'all monthly.
Okay, Catherine, just, I hope O'Neill, they will let me also have my opportunity. Well, for CPI, I will keep the parks in, and if you can find the additional benefit with the health premiums, I have a problem. And so that would be the motion I would make to have
I'll second that.
Our motion and a second on that amendment.
And if you would let me have some discussion, I don't really have a problem with Mr. Britt's plan, but I've been told by too many people. I think, we're 11th hour here. If we could get 30 days to study that, then.
Mr. Chairman, if council wants us to go with a state health insurance plan, I've pledged all of my efforts, all of my team's efforts to making this a successful transition. We are going to be working towards helping the county to see any of the additional revenues used appropriately and accounted for it. It will be with my 100% effort that this will go forward successfully. I do want to make sure that I understand the plan that is before you, before this amendment moves forward. Councilman Britt, you were including dental insurance in this as
Everything,
well.
same plan we have now. They've got it all listed on there.
Just wanted to be sure that we're moving everything to the state.
Life insurance, long-term disability, they've got it all under there, they've got the whole plan. And they have, like you say, two other plans. They have a high deductible plan, they have an HMO plan, if someone wants to do that. They have 3 options. Yeah. Let's vote on Michael's plan.
And I'm sorry, there were some other questions here that had to do with growth and CPI, but I want to be sure that we had the health insurance straight.
Did you amend David's motion, or did you?
He made his own motion.
No, he made an amendment. He made an amendment to David's motion, and we have to.
To add growth and CPI and keep in high school. And O'Neill second. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? I vote negative, opposed. Fails.
Now we vote on my motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor of?
Now, does this include the .5
This
million?
will not have the .5 million.
Gotcha.
This will be the savings going with the health insurance pool, removing the $500,000.
Yep.
Debbie?
Judge
And
Caldwell.
Judge Caldwell, back to the mix. No tax increase. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? And I vote affirmative. Dale?
All right.
I think we were under you.
I think we're going to item D, receive information and take desired reference to budget orders to establish capital budgets for 2013 to 2014. Budget year 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Chairman, the committee recommends that we render third reading, and I so do.
Second. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I wish to amend, I'd like to take a vote for 3 projects, which is cost too much money. I move to withdraw the 2012-2013 CIP budget funding, which will carry over to 2013-14 CIP budget. The vote for 3 projects, council capital project PR 0014, and remove the remaining fund balance back into the park fund balance, and to bring forward any correspondence and budget adjustment resolutions or implementation.
We have a motion to remove it for how long?
Do away with 1840.
That was the reasoning for the $500,000 for the operation of that particular park.
That was,
Do we have a second for Mr. Committee? Did you second Michael? Now, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I hope this is not just future reference to more retaliation. I hope we have better sense.
It's money coming to time.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed?
Which way did you vote?
Next, Dale. Next, Dale.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
E.
I'm looking at, we've already done E&S, so G is received that same.
G, right.
Mr. Chairman, everybody's got to look over that, including our committee.
Thank you, sir. I think Livability Committee on the Grand
Yes, sir, we received information and need to take some action in reference to a contract for Inland Sports Complex. We did have discussion with Betty. So we need to know what to do with that. Do we accept the contract as it states?
Committee recommend, I'll second the motion. Did you make the motion or you? I'll make a motion to approve the Inman Sports Complex.
Second.
Will you are confident they're going to come into the park soon?
I'm not confident, but I feel like they could be entertained if the right customer was there for it. My comment was $40,000 or maybe $47,000 would be irrelevant to the fact in the community is a lot like Boyne Springs. Only difference is Inman Township is a small tax base, whereas Inman encompasses, it didn't cover Boyne Springs for years until they changed the zip code on it. So why should we not have something up there available for all the people in the Inman area, which encompasses Campbell, Landrum, and all of that?
Well, I understand the reasoning for his action because I know they made him put Chesney into the middle.
I understand.
So,
yeah.
I'll just go ahead and clarify that I'm gonna vote against it until they decide to vote to go in. Any other discussion? All in favor of the contract for Inman Sports, raise your right hand. All opposed? I vote negative. How do you feel, Mike? Couldn't see?
Yeah.
Negative.
Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt? In all of the discussion about the budget, I'm not sure that the Personnel and Finance Committee addressed item D, which is the capital improvement plan.
We did. We did.
We did because, Holston Creek was discussed.
Yeah, Holston Creek was discussed.
And it was,
The amended motion,
Oh,
The amendment failed and then we voted to carry forward without the amendment.
I don't think we had
Yeah, we voted on the original motion.
correct. Thank you. You wanna bring that back up there?
Mr. Chairman, that was a motion and a second. Mr. Holbrook made the motion, Mr. Dunn made the second. So where you are,
That's correct.
after the amendment was considered, you're back to that.
Okay, so we're in discussion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. On the capital improvement plan. And then,
All right.
remove Hope.
I move that we
It's all, we already.
approve it and then,
We already know, we're still in
We're already there.
discussion.
We're in discussion.
discussing.
okay. So I brought forth the motion, the chairman, is you the chairman, you're the one that calls for that.
We have a second, I'll say we're in discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Yeah, what are we voting on?
We can vote on the capital improvement plan.
What happened to today's motion about Inman Parks complex?
Get that on.
Okay.
That was over in James' section. We had to go back to the.
We're going to go back to finance now.
All right.
We were
All in,
dynamic.
all in favor of capital improvement plan, raise your right hand. All opposed? Vote for it.
I believe we got that 7-0, David. I think we voted all 7 on that one.
The ability committee,
I've already finished.
yeah, you did. Oh, that's right. Public safety and judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had 2 items that came before the council. The committee was recommended for council vote with regards to the open burning ordinance.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, vote affirmative, it passes.
Second item, the committee recommends the council's consideration first reading of ordinance in regards to inmate medical co-pays. Have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, vote affirmative, it passes. Land Use Committee, item A, receive information to take required action to amend the Unified Land Management, clarify certain definitions. committee makes a motion.
Second.
Adopt, and a second. Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, or affirmative, it passes. No item number public work. Next, we have public comment period. We have Ms. Kathy Rogers and David Sloan to appear in reference to 58 Lake Front Church. And they're here today. Please come forward. Either side should be ready.
I appreciate y'all taking the time to be the first to comment. We purchased a home on 58 Lake Circle in 1986, and we have a water problem with the storm drain. In 2003, we had an architect look at our property. We tried to do some improvements on the property, and we found that there's a storm drain under our property. So we had to stop work because we were having some leaks under the house and that kind of stuff. We contacted the Roads and Bridges group, and they were telling us that they couldn't do anything about it because they didn't permit that storm drain. Which, you know, looking back at the permits was true because it was done before that. It was done probably in the 70s. We were not aware of this drain. So we were trying to find a resolution to get rid of, to do something about it. They were telling us that they couldn't do anything because it was considered a natural feature. And that, so we were thinking that we would just try to get rid of it. But if we tried to do that, that would cause flooding. So we were at an impasse. So we stopped the remodeling and the work we were trying to do. That was about 10 years ago. We're now back looking at this issue and talking to the Roads and Bridges. They've been very helpful. Mr. Kirby has come up with a plan to put in a storm drain that runs beside our yard. One of the problems we have is the funding for this. They're wanting us to pay for that. And we don't have the money for that. And it's actually taking water from the street, public street, and taking it down to Lake Lyman. So we're looking for some way to be able to afford to do this. Mr. Kirby's come up with a good plan as far as the stormwater drain, but the funding, we're not sure how we can do this. And that's really why we're here. Hoping somebody has some kind of solutions or some ideas to fix this problem. The pipe that's under our house right now is undersized for the amount of water that's coming from the street. There was a subdivision, a magnolia tree that was built, and the water coming from it is increased in volume a great deal, and the pipe that's there is not able to handle that. So it's going to have to be improved. So that's where we're looking for some kind of help on that. We have some pictures of.
O'Neill, have you looked at this project?
And Jeff, I wouldn't go on for comment. I have, and it's my understanding that the Rogers knew this was there when they bought the house. It's what I've been told.
That we did not know that.
And it was not permitted when it was put in, and it's off the county right away. So I think what they actually offered, and I think what they pointed out, Ron Kirby went out and looked at it and designed this, and Roger and I talked about it, and offered a solution. But then the 17-foot right of way, they don't have a 20-foot right of way. I think that's what somebody correct me if I'm wrong, is what the requirement is, and that Ron was willing to go with it before the variance board. But they're off of our property. Somebody else done this without permission, and They was offering them about a $10,000 fix up on the road, but not to carry it down to the lakes. That's really a private citizen's responsibility, because what they done, whoever built this house before y'all bought it, built out over a gully, and decided to pipe that gully, build their own house box and pipe down there. So it becomes questionable how much of it, I feel for y'all, but it becomes questionable how much of it taxpayers' responsibility. I think Mr. Kirby had a grand idea trying to help you, but that's about, I get that out right, Steve, that's about what I know about this. And there's a number of them across the county like this, and if you fix one, then you just about got to fix them all. You know, like I say,
That's true, that we did not know that was there, and Ron has got a good plan for correcting this. One of the issues is that we can't use what's there to pipe this there, and it had been working until there was an increase of permitted water above us. We're downstream. There was an increase. The pipe has to be, that we go from 17 to a 30 inch because of the water increase. And that was not our responsibility. That water has to be handled from the road some way. For us to try to handle that increase, I don't know how we can do that.
And it's permitted above, what do you mean by that?
Well, a new subdivision was put in above us, and the amount of the water coming through was much more forceful, and it needed, I guess it needed a bigger pipe.
I see what you're saying. So
And
we
so
permitted this subdivision, which
The
is
amount of water
impacting downstream your.
was too big, and we didn't even know we had the pipe.
What's the cost of the fix?
It's
About 10,000,
12
10 to 12.
That was to fix what Mr. Kirby had actually just to bring it to the property. And we looked, Steve, if we got the order, because somebody told me they thought they would come on down to the microphone. Well, I didn't know we was going to get this far into it, but and somebody, you or Ron, one told me you thought the pipe was probably stopped up downstream from them, is what was causing the problem. Whoever put that pipe in, but they've got an auger, water driven. I know I've seen it work before. Ron, I'm sorry, I didn't see you say that.
That's okay. That's all right.
I've been trying to hide back there.
Mr.
They've
Mance,
got an auger that you can run through these pipes and clean anything out.
We do, and we run that through our system. We don't get on a private property to do that. We feel like that there may be a clog somewhere between the catch basin and the lake, because we don't have a problem up on our street. It's never flooded that we're aware of. It's just on their property where they're having a problem.
Are they a source that Captain David can turn to actually an outside source that they might actually hire to come in there and clean that pipe out that's got that, because it would not be real expensive.
But the pipe can't sustain the amount of water now. It used to sustain it, we didn't even know it was there. But now, with the subdivision, a 30-foot pipe is needed compared to our 12.
It's a hydrology study on.
Yes, sir.
And that's what it shows, a 30-inch pipe.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Why do we permit a subdivision upstream?
That's our question.
Yeah. Will impact these folks down.
Okay. Ron can answer that question.
Yeah, that is me. That is me. All these projects, we all know state regulations have continued to get tighter. All these subdivisions, all these developments are permitted under state ordinance, and at the time it met state ordinance. So when the road was originally built and the pipe size was put in, I don't know if they actually sized it. They probably just installed something under the road. It was back in the late 60s. Wow. Before anything was built out there. So, as the area develops, the pipes become undersized. And when we get to the point that we need to replace our pipes, we go back in and resize them correctly. But this one, I think, is just getting old. What's under their house is probably unreinforced concrete, and it's probably crumbling. but originally the pipe was under the road. Someone in the early 70s, late 60s connected the pipe to it and ran it through the yard. It's not something the county would have done. We just, we maintain what's on the road.
Hey, just to let you know, I do this for a living. I design these street drains and also design the subdivisions that go into them. And I can attest that Ron's department will not let you build a subdivision above a county pipe system without proper retention and making sure that all the numbers are right in that pipe. The water coming down will be something that pipe can handle.
So this isn't a new subdivision?
Well, it had to be much older because from 92, 96, in those years, we had some major changes in the permits, and this kind of stuff really started coming to the forefront. And after that, you won't see subdivisions that are impacting smaller pipes without water control upstream. So it, to his point, that's exactly where we at.
Jeff and I used to deal with this all the time, back in the early 90s, mid-90s, late 90s, all these subdivisions being built, not thinking about folks downstream. And we had lots of people in showing us lots of videos with rivers running through their houses.
And we have an ordinance that says that new drainage cannot be connected in a manner which degrades the integrity of the existing system. And that is what has happened. It's not that the new drainage was done wrong, but there was no notice to us and no consideration of what their drainage, their greatly increased, huge new subdivision, all
Magnolia Tree was a subdivision.
concrete everywhere, and then.
When was it built?
It was built around 96 or 98.
Yeah, that's right. And so the drainage is white up until it gets to our pipe, and then it's like putting a fire hose into a garden hose, or maybe a sofa hose.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to ask, Ron, since I chair the Public Works Committee, I'm going to ask you to go back and look again and see if there's anything that we can do for them, and if they are, to bring it forth next month in our committee. I know where we're going here. It sounds like that.
I don't want to interrupt you, Neil, but I think this would be a good opportunity, and I knew that this is on the books, but we've never done it. Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, they do have opportunity to appeal to the Public Works Committee. We can hear the problems, we can have discussions with our department heads, and we can make a recommendation to full council as to our findings and let the council rule on it.
Yeah.
I would like to say what our contributions are, and Ron has really done a great job too, in doing the engineering and showing us if it was done right, what it would look like. But we are giving almost a third of what's left of our property to that easement. And we are going to rebuild a retaining wall to accommodate the easement. We're going to install and landscape a ditch that will take the water into the lake through the and we're doing that because, and we talked with Ron about this, our driveway is the lowest, most efficient way to get the water from Magnolia Place into the lake. So we do want to contribute all we can to fixing this problem.
Ron, correct me if I'm wrong now. You still going to have to go before the variance board to ask for a variance?
Yes, sir. Our standard.
That's something council can't give. The variance board would have to do that.
Yes.
They probably would, I'm sure. So why don't we just go back on Dale said, and I said, let's go back to the drawing board and look at this again and bring it in committee for July.
Yes, sir.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here today. Sorry it took so long. Item A, old business. We render third reading to an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of PNW tax agreement by and between Spartanburg County and Bolton Material.
Move approval third reading.
Have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, vote affirmative, and it passes. Item B, render third reading to an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement for the development of joint industrial business park for Burlington.
Move approval on third reading and for Mayor Harris.
Motion. And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, vote affirmative, it passes. Item C, render second reading to an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an infrastructure credit agreement by and between Spartanburg County and American Credit.
Move approval on second reading.
Have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, vote affirmative, passes. Item D, render second reading to an ordinance to develop a jointly owned and operated industrial business park in conjunction with Cherokee County.
Move approval on second reading.
Have a motion. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, vote affirmative, passes. New business. Consider an application for special public event exclusion from the noise ordinance requested by Greer Dragway from 4 p.m. until midnight on Saturday, July 13, 2013, and Saturday, July 27, 2013, for drag races at 1792 Dragway Road, Greer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, passes, vote affirmative. Anything else, Ms. Captain? Happy birthday, Ms. Captain.
Mr. Chairman, I got one thing on the miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous, number 10, miscellaneous council matter.
Two things. I would like to clarify for the record. I know they all got, but I'd like to clarify for the record two things. One, I did not ask Bob Walker to run for office, and Dale, I do not think he's going to run for office. His son may still be here, but I did not have, that was a decision made on his own. I told him, and I told you both, that you're both my friends, and I didn't do that. And two, I don't know where David got the idea that I went to the sheriff. I did go to the sheriff because they put something on me. He told me that he did not realize he was being filmed on a Tea Party website. In the Tea Party website, he said something to the effect about me about the $500,000 increase in parks. I asked him for a meeting. We had breakfast together. I want this to be on record, Ms. Debbie. I did not ask him at any time. I told him I was fine. Me and the sheriff is my friend. We're fine. I did tell him that my wife was not real happy, but me and him was fine. I did not ask him. I asked him to pray about it. And if you thought that there was an apology needed, then do so. If not, forget about it. And me and you will go down the road to being fine. I don't know where David's got the idea.
Got it from the sheriff. He's the one told him.
I'm letting my side of the story. I wish he was. I meant to get him before he left.
You ask him later.
Well, just be quiet. I'll talk.
Straight up.
Yeah. If you mention the others again, would you wrap that hammer while I got the floor? But he went back and made another film, and apparently kicked all four of us under the bus, and that was put on YouTube or something. I don't even know what it was on. I took it purely. And seeing that, I'm going to request that the Clifton Mill number 2 property be put back on record for us to vote on in the July. I'm directing you, Mr. Administrator. I want to be on record of what I want to vote for, a $240,000 piece of property that's a massive, ugly piece of concrete. And I would encourage all 7 council members to go out and look at Clifton number 2 in its current state. And that's what you're fixing to buy. So I want to vote on it on record because I don't believe we went on record yet voting on that. So
We're still under miscellaneous. You finished?
that is, yes,
I got my information from the sheriff. He's the one that told me that you asked him, wasn't fair to throw you under the bus by yourself. There were 3 other people that voted on it. You asked him to do that. He did it. And I watched the video. Roger sent it to me. He wasn't rude, crude, or anything about it. He just called the facts. Said he didn't think it was a good idea to vote for a tax increase. The other thing about this retribution, I don't know if you all want to hear another story about how a certain council member loves to get retribution and tries to intimidate people. What's Holston Creek all about? What's Clifton Glendale Mill all about? Case closed, evidence presented.
I need a motion on the budget amendment resolution to approve.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Vote affirmative. Need approval of the minutes from May 2nd, May 20, 2013. Need a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Vote affirmative. Need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Oh, man, it's entertaining. I don't know
Hey, did you lose some keys?
Check in my pocket, thank you.
Actually, wonderful comments for WYFL. They want to talk to you boys now.
Brown, this is Quincy, and my name is Myra.
Oh, I thought you had it here.
You know what? I have to. Sorry, I'll be right back.
Which side? Did I was trying to change the color? I took it off tonight.
It's not easy.